Hey guys, welcome to the channel. So I do have another multimeter here to test. This is from KAIWEETS, I believe that's how you pronounce it. I've tested a few different ones, not actually from this company, but this one here is the model KM601. It's a smart digital multimeter. It says it's 10,000 counts, but it's actually 9,999. And it also says 9,999 counts on the front of the meter, but on the box it says 10,000 counts. So anyway, let's take this thing out of the box and check it out. So this should be a good multimeter if you want to test like resistance, capacitance, voltage, different things, current. And for the price, instead of buying the expensive brands, I have an expensive brand, but it actually works no better for what I do. And I'll show you the pros and cons about this thing that I've seen so far. Okay, so let's take this out of the box. So it does come in a nice little case. This is one of those hard foam cases with a zipper and a handle on it, pretty handy. It does come with a good user manual too to explain everything to you in case you're not familiar with using multimeters. If you are, you won't have no problem anyway. Let's unzip this and show you what's inside. So the first thing we got here is a couple of leads, just standard leads like any multimeter is going to come with. It is a good set of leads. Looks like they do have a couple caps here just to protect them. We can take out. And on this end, we do have the protective covers. And what these are for is most of the time when you test voltage, you can just test with these tips. If you need a longer reach or you need to test from the side of these, then you can pull these off. And then you can test from the side of these. Some things you'll need to do that. But if you're reaching down in a bunch of electronics and you don't want to short this against something, then you would put these caps on here. And when you do that, all you have is this tip. So if you touch something here on the side, it's not going to hurt anything. So these are actually handy a lot of times, depending on the situation that you're in. Then in here we have a temperature probe. And this is a standard temperature probe, which comes with a lot of them too. Which all it is, you just plug it into the meter, the positive and the negative. And on this end, we actually have the little probe itself right here. It does come with an extra set of batteries. AAA's. Here's the unit itself, and I've told you about the cons. Okay, a couple of cons that I found on this unit. It's not big cons, but something I just don't care for, is it does not have a kickstand on the back. I wish it did. In my opinion, all multimeters should have a kickstand on the back. It's just nice, so if you want to set this thing somewhere and test something, you can prop it up like so. But you can take the case, lean up against the case, and go ahead and use it like that. But I do wish it had a kickstand. It has a power button right here on top. We turn the power button on. Comes on. It's going to have an auto mode here. The other con, there's only two cons that I really don't care for, was the kickstand. And you can see here this says 18.8 degrees Celsius. This is the ambient temperature in the room, and it can't be switched to Fahrenheit. Now when we check the temperature probe and plug it in and test, we can test, it shows Fahrenheit here and Celsius down here, so it shows both. But for some reason, when it's just on standard mode, it just shows Celsius and you can't switch it over to Fahrenheit. So that's another con that I don't care for. Other than that, it's actually really good, and those are things that I really don't need anyway. I don't need a temperature on here, it's not a big deal. And when I do test temperature with the probe, it does show Celsius and Fahrenheit, so that's no big deal. Over here we have an automatic power off button. You can see this little power thing displayed right here. So if we push this, turns automatic power off, push this button, comes back on. So if you're not using it, sitting there, it's going to automatically shut off after a certain period of time. So you can see here we're on auto. This little arrow is going from AC and DC voltage to ohms to continuity. And because it's on auto, when we hook our leads up, depending on what we connect to, if we connect to voltage, this arrow will be stopped on the voltage and reading our voltage right here. Automatically it knows which one you're connected to. Same way with ohms. If we're checking something for ohms, like a resistor or something, automatically will stop on the ohms and show us our resistance right here. And the same thing with the continuity. So one thing nice about this little multimeter is you're on automatic right now, but if you manually select through these, it will automatically display a little lights here showing you which leads, where you need to connect your leads. It will light up here showing you in case you do not know and you're new to this stuff, you don't know where to connect it, it automatically will show you. So you can see if we go manually through here, it's showing us the green on these two, which is what we need to connect. We'll connect our red here and connect our black here. And then when we go through this again, you can still see it shows both green there. Same way on the millivolts. Same way on the hertz. On the temperature probe, we'd actually unplug this and plug in the temperature probe to these two. So when we get to milliamps, it's going to show us to connect these two. And then we get to amps, it's going to show us to connect these two right here. You can see the green indicator showing you. So you just move your leads over to what it says. That's actually a pretty handy feature. So we go back to automatic here. You can see a little arrow moving here. It's sitting there waiting for me to do something so it knows what we're on. So what I'm going to do is touch these two leads together, which would be continuity. It should automatically stop on continuity and show us 0 across here. And beep. So you can see the audible tone it has. It's stopped on continuity and it's showing us 0 all the way across, which that's really good. Okay, so if we take a little DC battery here, this is just a AA 1.5 volt. We're still on auto. When we connect our positive and negative leads here, it's going to stop on voltage and show us our voltage on the display. You can see the little blue arrow stopped on the voltage. It shows 1.621 volts. Pretty accurate. Okay, so now I brought our meter over here to an AC wall outlet and we're still on auto. So whenever I connect this to AC, it's going to stop on voltage and show us our voltage. So if we connect our common in here, put our hot in here, it stopped on voltage, shows us 116.3 volts. And then you notice here that it also shows 60 hertz. That's really nice that it shows your voltage and your hertz. Now, if we set this thing to hertz by moving this manually, when we go all the way across here to where it says HZ, that's our hertz. We can test this and see if we are 60 hertz. And if you should see there, we're 60.04 hertz. Very accurate. If we go on across here and we set this to where it says, hopefully you can see this, it says NCV live. Okay, we set it on NCV, shows on our screen here. And this is where this little part right here says NCV on the top of the meter. If we hold this to the positive down here close to it, it should tell us that we have live power. You can see that it shows a H on the screen. The red light comes on and it's beeping. Very handy to have that. You can actually use this without even having the leads on here. So you can just have your leads off, take this thing around to receptacles or light sockets, and you can see if you have voltage on them if they're live by doing that right there. Okay, while we're on the NCV live, we can test this outlet to see if it's wired correctly. Sometimes people will have these outlets and they don't have them wired correctly. Your positive should be this little short one. This is your common. This is your extra ground right here. So if we touch the positive here, we shouldn't get nothing. And we don't. But if we stick it in this short one, it tells us H, red light's on, it's beeping. We know this is our live post and that's wired correctly. Okay, so now if we want to touch the temperature probe, we have the temperature probe right here. We want to move this thing until we go to the Celsius and Fahrenheit. All the way over to right there. And what it shows us right now is Fahrenheit, ambient temperature in the room, and Celsius, 20 and 68 Fahrenheit, 20 Celsius. And then when we plug in the probes, it's going to be reading off of this probe. So while we're on here, we'll plug these into the correct spots where it said. It did light up green there for just a little bit. And now we have our probe here. You can see if I touch my finger on here, that temperature is going to start going up, showing my body temperature. I'm obviously cold. Okay, right here I have it in front of a little infrared heater and just wanted to test it. It's sitting here running anyway. So you can see hopefully you can see our screen right here. Get it where it ain't got a reflection. Hold this little probe in front of the heater. And look at that thing go up, 127, 130. It's really climbing. Not touching the metal grill, I'm actually just holding it in front. Actually, my fingers are getting pretty hot. 159, probably going to climb from there a little bit. That's pretty close to what it is, obviously. 159 degrees Fahrenheit, 71 degrees Celsius. Okay, I thought I'd test an ice cube also, so I got one right here. Set this inside the ice cube. Our temperature inside the ice cube here, 27 degrees and -2 Celsius, 26 Fahrenheit. Pretty darn good. It's cold as ice. Okay, now I want to do a little test here that I do on multimeters just to make sure kind of if it's working on testing LEDs. I got some capacitors here, got some resistors, a little 4007 diode, and just to see how accurate it is. And I kind of know what these things should be. So let's go ahead and do the test on them. First thing we'll do is have it put on ohms, and then we'll test across some resistors right here. So there is a 1K. And you can see that it's 0.997, which is pretty close to 1K, which is really accurate. These are plus or minus. And then we have K ohms, 2.2, and that is 2.171, which is really good. Over here we have a 3.8 ohms. Over here we have a 360 ohm, and that's really close. Over here we're testing a 120 ohm resistor. 118.4, which is good. And now we'll check this thing on to diode check. So on diode check, we can test this 4007 diode, and it should read in the 0.500 range, and it will beep if I got it the right direction. You want the common side here toward your stripe side of your diode. You hear it beep, and it shows 579, 580, so that's actually really good, and that's a good diode. We can also on diode check, because these are light emitting diodes, LEDs, we can take and test the LEDs while we're on diode check. You see that's an amber LED, and that's pretty good. And we can check this red LED right here, lights it up, working good. Now we can take this thing and put it over on capacitance. You see I set that on capacitance. We'll read these capacitors. This is a 470 microfarad. This is 1000 microfarad. And when I go across here, it will take a little bit for it to charge, and it's going to show us, so we'll wait here just a second. Give us a reading. And that's 445, 446, which that's a 470, so that's pretty close. We'll test the 1000 microfarad. And there you go, 950 microfarad, 943, whatever, that's actually good enough. Okay guys, that is the KAIWEETS model KM601 digital multimeter. Check this out on the link I'll put below on my Amazon. So pretty cool little multimeter for the price. You get a lot of bang for your buck, and should be a good one to last you a long time. Thank you guys for watching. Click the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. Catch you on the next one, and ride on.